Consistency. It's a concept that Amberlynn has heard of but never quite understood. Here she is, yet again, proving that when it comes to actually following through, Amberlynn Reid is as consistent as a tornado. She announced a break, yet here she is, popping back like a bad visitor, not only with a Q&A, but an actual video upload. The commitment to not doing what you say is truly next level. But, of course, we all knew the break was just a farce. It's classic Amberlynn, baiting the hook to reel attention right back to herself. But what does a narcissist do when the spotlight shifts away? She can't bear to be invisible, so instead she finds every little loophole and excuse to keep herself in the public eye, whether it's a Q&A or a half-hearted response to the latest catastrophe she created. What else is there to do but take a seat, grab the popcorn and watch as the performance continues? I find it refreshingly quaint when people pretend they're taking a break only to immediately break the break. She's uploaded again because of course she has. Not just an Instagram Q&A this time, but an actual YouTube video. And this time she's reacting to Salty Crab, the only person who's ever really seemed to puncture the delusions with nothing but reason and a microphone. But, of course, SmugLynn has to enter the chat waving her hands like she's conducting an orchestra of lies, throwing her head around like a dashboard figurine, declaring between smug smirks that this is all in the name of honesty. It's hideous, yet also strangely compelling. She opens telling us she just got out of the shower. We don't need to know that, and she probably didn't. She's just trying to make us think that she's got this hygiene schedule because people have been criticizing her hygiene lately. It's so spontaneous. She's not sure where this fits into her YouTube schedule, the one she's not going to follow, because she's on a break. Right? Right. And then it comes, the cancer monologue again. She's weaponizing trauma like a loyalty card. Amber, it's not that people don't believe you had cancer. What they don't believe is that you learned anything from it besides how to turn it into a get-out-of-criticism-free card. Raglan Bleed hurt her feelings. It's not the first time she's taken a nickname personally, but it's the first time she's trying to rewrite history in the process. Then she tries to attack Salty Crab for not showing her face. Imagine not putting a camera in front of you every time you speak. It's almost as if some people value the privacy over pity points. Mental health shaming, she cries, just seconds after smirking at everyone with differing opinions. She swings from weeping martyr to sass-mouthed queen like a metronome set to chaos. Amber, it's not your mental illness people are criticizing. It's the calculated manipulation of your audience under the guise of mental illness. Why would I apologize to you, she sneers, as if basic decency is something she only extends after background checks on a notarized document. It's whiplash logic. You're mean so I don't have to reflect. It's a brilliant strategy if you're 5. She cries more mental health shaming. No, darling, that's called criticism. Not everything that makes you uncomfortable is an act of oppression. And then she acts like a moral authority about jokes that offend. If it hurts someone, you apologize, she says. Which is good advice. Except that's not what Amber does. That rule only applies to other people. Amber doesn't apologize when she calls someone a liar, a bitch, or implies something seriously dark. She doubles down. She says she used the wrong word. So let's not play the empathy card when you're always making passive-aggressive digs. Her martyrdom is in full bloom. She compares herself to every uterine cancer patient ever and tries to universalize her story so no one can challenge it. Amber, no one's saying you lied about cancer, no one's saying you deserved it. We're saying you've weaponized it since. You didn't seek help for years, and then used a delayed diagnosis as something to deflect criticism. That's the difference. By this point, she's spiraling, accusing Salty Crab of implying that people were scrubbing her blood out of the sink. Theatrics, dramatics, performance. She's painting herself as so fastidious that she personally laundered every rag and no one else did it for her. She doesn't even do her laundry consistently now. The mental image of her doing precision stain removal is poetic in its absurdity. She defends why she went to the ER for cellulitis and hand injuries, because it was life-threatening, of course. But the same logic didn't apply to her bleeding, apparently. She's deep in cherry-picking territory now. She responds to the comments about her uploading her bleeding pictures to Snapchat, and acts like people who talked about them were the devil. Amber, if you turn your trauma into content, people will respond to it like content. You can't publish it and demand that it be treated as sacred. Pick one. She says that she would have dragged the mattress into the living room for Beck if the situation were reversed. No, you wouldn't. We saw the way Amber treated Beck when Beck was going through medical issues. It was chilling. She couldn't have cared less. And now she's twisting basic relationship compromise into sainthood? I'd drag a mattress for Beck. Well, congratulations. That's literally the bare minimum in a partnership. We're not giving you a medal for acting like a semi-decent human being once in a while in hindsight. The best part is when Salty Crab says maybe if the gynecologist served orange chicken, you'd have gone. And there it is, another moment she's been waiting for so she can scream ableism. But really she's just furious that someone made a joke that was better than any of hers. Because the Queen of Shade hates being outsassed. This version of Amberlynn appears when she believes she's won something. She smirks at the camera, swings her head like she's accepting a crown, and speaks in riddles that only she thinks are clever. The bobbing, the pointed, the exaggerated lip smacks. It's not confidence. It's bravado that's been rehearsed, delivered by someone who desperately wants to look unbothered but is absolutely seething underneath. What she's actually doing is pantomiming intelligence, empathy, and strength. It's all just a badly rehearsed monologue delivered with a middle school theatre kid's sense of timing. And the worst part is that she believes it. Everything she says when she's in SmugLynn mode is just drenched in fake enlightenment. It's a fleeting moment, but it'll be okay. Everyone with critical thinking supports me. These are the mantras of someone who's not growing, but who's just memorized the script of someone who has. She weaponizes therapy buzzwords without doing the work. She calls everyone else delusional, but never questions her own contradictions. She claims she's above it all while making another video dragging the very people she says don't matter. She thinks silence is power, until she can't help herself and breaks it again and again and again. But SmugLynn is the most fragile version of her. Behind the bravado and the declarations, SmugLynn is the weakest Lynn in the chain. This is Amber's attempt at control, projecting dominance because she can feel the ground shaking beneath her. She has no audience loyalty anymore, no credibility, no trust, so she just clutches at the illusion of power. She snarls from her throne, convinced that confidence equals correctness. She confuses volume with validity and performance with proof. She believes that if she says it with enough conviction, that it becomes true. And that's why she's insufferable when she's like this. It's not just because she's smug. It's because she's fragile, and she won't admit it. SmugLynn is the mask that gets put on when victim Lynn gets tired. When crying doesn't work, she tries the smirk. When the tears stop landing, the finger pointing begins. She needs to be the most wronged or the most righteous. There's no in between. But SmugLynn thinks she's both. SmugLynn is like the White Witch in Narnia, minus the wardrobe budget and plus a Costco-sized bag of salami. She declares herself the queen of the land, where anyone who dares to speak ill of her is instantly labelled as a traitor or a hater or an enemy of the crown. And what does her rule look like? It's a frozen wasteland of deleted comments, weaponized trauma, and endless live streams where the snow never melts. And just like the White Witch, the crown she wears is completely self-appointed, and the subjects she claimed to rule are long since moving on to other things and waiting for anyone to break the spell. But now Beck and Destiny have returned to Narnia like Aslan. They're bringing timelines and screenshots and truths to pierce through the carefully curated blizzards. The winter is ending, and now SmugLynn is panicking. Because what happens to a narcissist when their fantasy is interrupted? They crumble. She's lashing out like the White Witch at the stone table, desperate and shrieking, trying to maintain control with threats and superiority. It's ableism, it's trauma, you're all obsessed with me. No, we're just tired of the winter, and spring is finally coming. But I have to talk about her claims of ableism and fat phobia. She deploys them like a fire alarm. It's loud, jarring, and entirely unwarranted whenever someone dares to point out her behaviour. The thing is, ableism and fat phobia are real. They're devastatingly real. They impact people's lives every single day. They deserve to be addressed with care, sincerity, and nuance. That's Amber's favourite word. But this isn't that. This is a woman standing in the wreckage of her own choices, clutching identity labels like riot shields, hoping they'll protect her from accountability. It's not advocacy, it's a deflection tactic. She's not standing up for these communities. She's standing behind them, using them as cover for her own poor behaviour. Criticising someone for smirking through their lies is not ableism. Calling out someone for manipulating trauma for pity isn't fatphobia. Pointing out that you had access to care but didn't use it is also not ableism. Amber uses these words not to elevate conversation, but to end it. She throws them out like landmines, hoping that people will start stepping carefully around her. But everyone sees through it. And worse, she's just cheapening the conversation for everyone else. Every time she weaponizes those terms to shield herself from criticism, she makes it harder for actual victims of fatphobia and ableism to be taken seriously. She's not dismantling stigma. She's reinforcing the idea that calling out bad behavior is the same as bigotry. That is manipulation dressed in progressive vocabulary. So no, Amber, it's not about your weight, it's not about your mental health. It's about your actions, and no amount of buzzwords is going to erase that. Her weaponization of terms like ableism and fatphobia isn't just hollow, it's actively damaging to her already fractured reputation. When someone critiques Amber's actions and she responds with, "That's ableist," or "You're just fatphobic," she's not engaging with the argument, she's just dodging it. Audiences aren't stupid. People know the difference between prejudice and accountability. So when she starts screaming buzzwords every once someone calls her manipulative, the reaction isn't sympathy. It's eye-rolling, she's just discrediting herself. It's transparent deflection. And like I just said, it's undermining real advocacy. Every time she falsely equates criticism with bigotry, she's muddying the waters for people who are genuinely mistreated for their size, disability, or mental health. She's turning serious, nuanced conversations into Amber-centric dramas. And guess what? That makes people less likely to care when someone else tries to raise those issues. She's co-opting real struggle to deflect from her own misdeeds, and viewers see that as self-serving and manipulative. It also just makes her look desperate. There's nothing quite as telling as someone who tries to end a debate by claiming moral superiority they haven't earned. When she shouts, "That's fatphobic," in response to a criticism about honesty or deflection, it just reeks of someone who's lost an argument and is now slapping labels around like duct tape over a gaping hole. That desperation doesn't build support, it just alienates. And the more she cries ableism or fatphobia in bad faith, the more viewers start disengaging, not just from her, but from everything she says. She just becomes the girl who cried buzzword. And when there is a moment where those terms genuinely apply, no one will be listening anymore. She's burned out her audience's empathy for clout. She's not offering sincerity, she's offering manipulation disguised as activism. Viewers might not always have the perfect vocabulary, but they know when they're being emotionally blackmailed. And that's what Amber's trying to do. But if she spent half as much time building trust as she does deflecting criticism, she might actually have some audience left. But instead, she just chooses scorched earth tactics. And that's why, year after year, she finds herself with fewer supporters, more backlash, and no credibility. And that, my darlings, is Amberlynn in full spiral, just proving every single point that Salty Crab has made, while thinking she's doing damage control. She's not responding with dignity or clarity. She's responding like a child denied the last cookie. She's smug, she's dismissive, she's manipulative, and above all, she's incredibly performative. SmugLynn is back and better than ever. She's not making herself look better, all she's doing is perpetuating the drama because she knows that very few people are on her side with this. She's blowing up a reaction because she wants to look like she's on a higher horse. But that horse's knees are buckling, and its eyes are crossed. And I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one who's simply thrilled to watch that high horse ultimately collapse underneath her.